Welcome one, welcome all to episode 201 of the Xbox Expansion Pass, recorded on Saturday, October 28th, 2023. I am your host, Luke Lohr, the InsipidGhost, joined by my co-host, the intrepid Captain Logun. And in this episode, we take a look at the monumental shift in Xbox leadership as Sarah Bond has taken over as president of Xbox. Activision's acquisition now brings the number of billion-dollar franchises in Xbox's portfolio to 17. That is impressive. And of course, we have an Xbox showcase in our wake that brings mixed reactions from gamers. And Alan Wake 2 has arrived. As always, we hope you enjoy the show. Logan, we like to start the show by offering words of kindness, those who have made our gaming weeks better. But first, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, man. I went out last night for some Halloween party goodness, and wife ended up winning a costume contest for Catwoman, so it was really cool. And yeah, just a couple drinks, some socializing with folks that we didn't know, and then came back home. But yeah, so far a really good week. Had some really good times playing with you guys, playing with other folks. Sea Thieves in season 10 is like in full throw, so jumping into that, but can't complain, man. It's been a good week. How about you?
That's awesome. I had a very busy week. Like just busy, right? Like I had 2 13 to 15 hour days back to back.
Oh my God.
Which was really hard. Yeah, it was really hard. Neither was bad per se, but they were just long and tiring.
Yeah.
Like teaching, then coaching, then we took the kids out and did this big event, and then there was the bus wouldn't start, and then there were only 3 people working at the restaurant we went to. God. Just like, but the kids were great. We had fun. And the next day was parent teacher conferences, and that wasn't bad, which can sometimes be bad. And I have a leadership role, so I make sure that everybody's being good to one another. And again, not bad, but tiring. And in between all that, I got to play a lot of the Halloween stuff with you and Kevin and Suddy and Joe across Fortnite and COD, which was really a good time. And I've been playing a lot of Spider-Man 2, which is really impressive. And I've had a very good week that was very difficult and busy, but it wasn't bad at all. So a very good week.
Yeah. Sometimes it's still a good week, even if you're stressed out. And it's like, it's hard to like appreciate how good of a week it can still be, knowing that you're just like, I'm just ready for a break.
Right. That's exactly right. Soccer's almost done, so I'm looking forward to that because I'd like my time back, because when that's done, I can take care of myself a bit more, because I'll always push to take care of the kids and that kind of thing.
Oh man. Yeah. See, I'm super selfish. So like any time away from games or hanging out with friends online is like, I don't know if I want to do this.
Yeah.
Do I have to wear clothes? Am I going outside? I don't know.
I can tell you that I'm ready to play Alan Wake. Like that's kind of been my that's my goal. You know how sometimes you set like, once I get to here, I can do this kind of thing.
Yeah.
We did get a code for Alan Wake, but it came in like day of. I think it's just where we are on their kind of like distribution list, which I'm still very appreciative of.
Cool.
But that means, it's very cool. And I'm so excited to dive in. It's perfect for spooky time.
Yeah.
And so probably this evening I will dive in. I'm seeing a lot of people on our XCP Discord loving it, and I know we'll talk reviews in a bit. So I'm stoked.
They're loving it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, look, man, who are your words of kindness for this week?
Oh man, so I got to shout out CJ and Austin, who are over at Humanity, which is
the game.
Humanity the game, also part of the race. I think we all are.
Okay. All right. Cool.
But it's well, I don't know. You could be a robot. I could be a cat. You never know.
It's all simulation.
It's all simulation. But no. So this week, part of the reason why I had such a good week was I took a half day on Wednesday and went and actually streamed with them on their Humanity channel, which, if you guys don't know, Humanity is a PlayStation exclusive for the time being. And it is a PSVR 2 game, but it's also a regular game. But it is like Lemmings with people. And you can do custom levels like Super Mario Maker 2. You can play through the campaign, which has some really awesome levels that are kind of like part of them's like fix or like work the humans through the level and try and save as many as you can. Others are like work out the puzzle on where they have to go because there's a limited number of them and they follow your commands as a little Sheba. And then other ones are just like there's a big boss battle and you have to kill the boss with all the humans and you got to run around with lightsabers and guns and stuff, and they just automatically fight as you kind of run them through the area and stuff with this little Sheba. So it's a great game. It's a game that I got to help test out, so I'm in the credits as a special thanks, which was really awesome. And we got to play some piratey levels this week as part of their creator showcase. So shout out to them over on the Humanity Game channel on Twitch and YouTube. They were fantastic to play with and talk with after and before, during, and the whole event. So it was really awesome. It was about an hour and a half's worth of content, just to kind of check out like different levels and stuff. So it was really sweet of them to invite me on.
Yeah, that is really cool, man. I love CJ, of course, from Player One Podcast. I don't know Austin, but that's really neat. That's really neat. And anytime you get to interact with developers, I think that's a win. It's just a good time. So that's great, man. Very cool.
How about you? Who's your words of kindness for this week?
I mentioned it very quickly last week, and he didn't catch his quick shout out kind of midway through an episode. So I want to shout out Wolverine, who I interact with over on Threads a lot. And he's just a wonderful presence there. They're a wonderful presence there. And so I just really appreciate getting to chat with people on Threads because it's another avenue. It's another possibility of interaction. And Twitter is this weird, like, is it dying? Is it not place? And I don't enjoy that nearly as much. So I really enjoy my people on Threads, and Wolverine's constantly there. Just cool. Chatting it up, checking things out. Not an avid podcast listener, he said. And so if he's listening, awesome, appreciate it. But it's more like he made my gaming week better, and so I just want to note some appreciation there for sure.
That's cool.
So
I'm waiting for Elon to put that paywall on Twitter so I can justify nixing it and moving over to Threads or Blue Sky.
It's a real bummer how
it
it's
really is. Remember when Twitter was cool?
I loved Twitter for so long. I built a community there. So So what are you gonna do? Well, look, man, we've got a lot of cool things happening for XEP this week, especially with our patrons. Tomorrow, we're recording the Xbox wrap up, which we have a new format on, in which we chat with patrons about their gaming month, and we wrap up their gaming month. And so I put it out into our patron Discord. I put it out over on Patreon that tomorrow, at the time of this recording, we're going to be recording with any patron that wants to come in and just chat about what they've been playing or what's on their gaming mind. I'm so looking forward to that. Last month, Ellery joined us to do a Starfield spoiler cast. That's now on YouTube for everybody. But I'm really looking forward to this community event. I really enjoy interacting with our patrons a lot, and know we're about to shout them out. But it's just cool to have that community in the wake of Twitter going away, and the possibility of having to find new social spaces. Having them there has been great. So shout out to that.
Yeah, it's really fun to be able to do that. I am looking forward to that as well too, especially the haunting tweets that you put out regarding like my comments about Starfield and what I did in that game.
I hope
so
that
baity.
People see it. No, it's not baity. Anybody that has not heard the Starfield spoiler cast, when you are ready, you go in and you listen to the three of us talk about like our experiences in Starfield. But Captain Logan is the most savage, awful human being I've ever heard. What he did to his wife was horrible in this game. But I couldn't. It's not baity by intention, Logan. It was terrible. But I can't tell anybody to like go listen because it's a spoiler cast. So it's wild. I could not believe you did that. And I was like, my heart hurt for these digital creatures. I was like, goodness gracious.
Look,
You're a monster.
Look, they put the options in there when they made the game. Like if they didn't think of the repercussions of allowing you to do certain things in that game to be able to do anything you want in that game, then that's on them, because the tools are there. I didn't make the rules. They didn't set the precedent. I just used the tools that were available to me. So that's on Todd Howard. And if Todd Howard wants to have a chat about what I did and the repercussions of how that's going to impact Elder Scrolls 6, he's more than welcome to come show up on our doorstep.
Well, first of all, I would love that. Absolutely. For sure. And there's a couple other Xbox leadership people we've mentioned, but we'll get to that in the news. Let's do our Patreon 2 and 3 shout outs real quick, and then we can get into this like massive week. This was a huge week for Xbox, and I wasn't expecting it to be. So let's give our shout outs to our tier 2 and 3 patrons. This is up on you this week.
So thank you again. Head over to patreon.com/Xbox Expansion Pass if you'd like to join in, get your name in the list, join on the Discord, join us for the Xbox wrap up for the tier 3s. But thank you to our tier 2 and tier 3 shout outs. This week it is Nicholas Downey, Rob Frawley II, Tao Zochi, Trickster, Robbie Bobby Miller, Xbox Skittle, Steel Rain, Matto 1606, Randall Thor 19, Silkenit, Rick Gaffney, African aka Charles Jones, Game Positive, Jam Pack Sam, Matt Valdez, Neoprime 33, Rick Davis, Red Beast, Xbox Mike 29, the Lord Sir Master James Suddy, Brendan Myers aka the Winter Gamer, Sony's VP of Marketing Kevin Butler, Clint Coombs, DJ Hero, and Dano12. Thank you all so much for your love, for your support, for your conversation and camaraderie as we go into another week of Xbox news.
That's right. Oh, that was well said. Well said. Patrons, your money was put to good use in September. We donated a great deal of money to Extra Life across our various content creators. There's a remaining $25 that's going to go out in November for, I think it's allotted for the trophy room once they activate theirs, but we were able to hook up Save Game Media, Seasoned Gaming, Greg Stewart, Skinny Matt, and you donated this past weekend as well, a $50 donation.
Yeah, so I good buddy of mine, fellow Sea of Thieves podcaster, Davram TV, he's been doing Extra Life for 10 years. He's the team captain over in the Columbus, Ohio area. And he's been doing Extra Life for a very, very long time. Has booths that get set up at different conventions over in Ohio. And just one of the few people that I think is genuinely like one of the nicest people when it comes to like trying to make sure that charities are represented and treated well, and that folks are having a good outlet and experience with that. So amazing work that they do. They usually get tons and tons of stuff to give away for raffles and stuff at their conventions that they go to for people that donate. And the amount of money that they raise is some of the biggest, especially given like the scale of people that follow that particular chapter versus like big name streamers and stuff. They pull their weight better than I think most people do when it comes to this kind of thing. So it's really fantastic to get an opportunity to support them again this year under the XEP banner.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I enjoyed putting like, this is not from me. This is from the patron. This is, don't enter me in a contest, or don't enter anybody for whatever. I'm trying to just make it clear that like,
we're doing this for the kids.
Yes, thank you. That's what I'm trying to say. All right. Big news this week. Lots of really big topics that I was surprised about, impressed with, I raised eyebrows to. There was a massive reorganization at Microsoft leadership. Of course, it was last week that Pete Hines announced he was leaving Bethesda. He'd had an astoundingly impressive career. We speculated whether this was it was clearly voluntary, but like we speculated if there were reasons behind this, or he was just ready for a change, if it had anything to do with the Activision acquisition. Still don't know, and I don't want to put out into the universe that it is some sort of conspiratorial thing, but Pete Hines leaving Bethesda was certainly a shift in culture for both Bethesda and now ZeniMax and Xbox. But even bigger news this week, as Matt Booty is now taking over at ZeniMax and Bethesda, and Sarah Bond is now the president of the Xbox platform. This is pretty darn cool stuff. I love seeing this for a lot of reasons. I was, hold on, let me read the news and then I'll speak more specifically about my thoughts on some stuff. We've got Xbox Game Studios head Matt Booty moving over to president of game content and creation and studios with ZeniMax and Bethesda. ZeniMax itself is going to be run on a limited integration with the president and CEO of Jamie Letter leading the company, but reporting to Matt Booty. That's interesting. Sarah Bond's new promotion of going to president of Xbox will have her oversee hardware, business strategy, and a couple other kind of like undefined things. Phil Spencer had some comments on this one, Logan. He said, "Great games are fundamental to everything we do. We believe that an expanded gaming content organization, one that enables Xbox Game Studios and ZeniMax's development studios to collaborate effectively together, will empower those world-class studios to do their best work in growing our portfolio of games that players love." End quote. This is interesting because it's largely focused on ZeniMax and Xbox Game Studios and kind of strengthening that bond there. I would have thought this would have happened
The
sooner.
Sarah Bond.
There it is. I would have thought this would have happened sooner, but I'm glad it is happening. And I think Redfall and Starfield taught a lot of lessons to both. I also think it's prep for an Activision, influx of culture and whatnot. Pretty neat to think, Logan, and this was The Verge that pointed this out, that once Bobby Kotick exits Activision Blizzard, there will be more women than men in the gaming leadership team at Xbox. I think that's really neat in terms of if we're talking about culture shift. That's a pretty, I think, telling thing for something that's pretty important. We've seen Xbox do a good job at diversifying. Go ahead.
Considering that the games industry is still largely operated and owned by, white males, the fact that the Xbox leadership team will have more women in power than men speaks to the drive of them allowing for others to see that everyone is a gamer, that everyone is invested in gaming, and just to be able to like celebrate that for a moment is fantastic. And the fact that Matt Booty is going to be taking over for the studios and stuff that are over at ZeniMax and kind of heading that up shows that he is still doing a good job. He can still handle the workload because we've seen games like Hi-Fi Rush and Pentiment come out of Obsidian and Tango Gameworks under his purview, and making sure that we are going to run into the occasional Redfall, but then we're going to get a Starfield. And knowing that Pete Hines is left still kind of feels like a breakup between like Johnny Depp and Tim Burton.
It stings. It stings.
Yeah, like I hope it's not something that was like because of bad blood between what was going on, because I earnestly hope that Pete Hines was still satisfied, but it does feel odd as far as timing. But it's not like it's one of those things like someone decides to retire, you can't just leave their position open,
right?
And you can't close that off because they've got so much responsibility, especially in Pete Hines's position. So Matt Booty kind of stepping in is interesting because it shows kind of the overgrowth of Xbox through their acquisitions over the years, instead of like promoting from within ZeniMax to fill the position of Pete Hines. It's definitely interesting there. Having Sarah Bond as the president of Xbox though is really cool. Obviously Phil Spencer is still going to be CEO, but having Sarah as the president allows me to feel like this is going to be a good exit strategy for Bobby Kotick. Like we know who's going to be in place. And I think you posted the link and I saw it earlier this week of Tom Warren's kind of leadership chart of like how it's going to kind of disseminate down. So you've got Phil at the top, and then Matt Booty is going to be sharing the same kind of pedestal as Sarah Bond as presidents. And then under them, they've got like Dave McCarthy for COO, Jared West is a CMO, and Amy Silverman is chief consumer sales officer. And then you've got like Bobby Kotick, who's going to be out, and then Jocelyn Main, who's the chief of staff. It's so cool to have like faces to names and stuff, and not all of them have to be upfront and personable. Obviously Matt Booty, very behind the scenes but very important. Sarah Bond, much more front facing and outspoken with a lot of the, like her desires for Xbox. So I'm just glad that we're getting people that we're familiar with or names that we know in positions where they're going to be able to foresee what happens and impact the future of Xbox for the next 10 years. At least. So really love it though.
I agree. And it's interesting because I think if you would like to roll back the clocks wind back the clocks a year. I don't think I was very high on Matt Booty, and it goes to show how ignorant a lot of consumers are. I'm using myself as the example, but really
Mm.
on this side of the gaming sphere as to what's happening. We were seeing a drought in gaming content. We were seeing Halo
Yeah.
Infinite struggle mightily. We were wondering, like, what's Xbox doing? Is Matt Booty's leadership the problem? Is what's, there was a lot of speculation. And
Yep.
it goes to
I
show
remember that.
how very wrong I think we were, how very misinformed we are, and how we as consumers, podcasters, content creators, and even many journalists are not privy to a lot of the inner workings of things. Even insiders are not privy to certain elements of what's going on with the team. And the Activision Blizzard acquisition and the court documents that kind of came out of that showcase that Matt Booty was in fact doing an exceptional job
Yeah.
at guiding studios and getting things on track and fixing stuff. And it's very telling that consumers, that content creators, journalists, people like ourselves, that we do this weird in-between thing on occasion,
Yeah.
need to be careful how full-blown into opinions we go, because in fact Matt Booty is very much doing a great job. And for him to stand alongside someone of the caliber of Sarah Bond, to be working with and under Phil Spencer, to be working alongside Amy Silverman and so many other established names that have done good things, it's like, oh, all right, there we go. Credit where due. Apologies.
It's one of those situations where we as consumers like to pay attention to who's in charge and how things are going, because their leadership is the one that is going to dictate how the hardware, how the ecosystem goes. So, having Doug Bowser take over for Reggie Fils-Aimé, like, it's concerning because everyone knows how Reggie feels about Nintendo and where he will drive Nintendo for America. With Doug, he's far more behind the scenes and we don't know what his passions are. And because of that, it's hard to feel certain when you look at like the future of Nintendo, because some of that culture, some of that personality is going to bleed through the company from the top down. It's going to be a waterfall effect. And we see that with Phil Spencer, and we're going to see what's going to happen with PlayStation soon, now that Jim Ryan is leaving. So it's going to be one of these situations where you want to know who's in charge, because that will most definitely impact the quality and the cropping or the release schedule of games. Even though these studios work on their own, they're very independent. How these games get filtered, greenlit, all that stuff is important. If not for Matt Booty, I would not be podcasting, because he is the one that greenlit Athena's Fortune back in the day, which ended up being Sea of Thieves. And if not for Sea of Thieves, I wouldn't be here with you. So it's because of Matt Booty that I am even able to talk about his career in the first place. Because if not for him, I would not even know who he is, as a result of all the choices that he's made over the last 10 years.
Last week on XEP 200, people asked what like my dream guests were, and Sarah Bond was one of them for what I think is a wonderful reason to want to talk to her and talk about her journey and to share that with students and stuff. And I think that just got further away as she is now president of Xbox. I think it's even more difficult than it will ever be. But I hope, who knows. But can I say what I love most about this, forgive the term, bonding now between Bethesda and Xbox Game Studios? For Matt Booty to oversee it will allow, I think, more cross work between studios. We know that there is a lot of the coalition going out and helping with Unreal Engine. They even work with Epic pretty closely, but this opens the door for even more cross collaboration. And I think as Xbox is figuring it out, finally, the ability to work together within their studios with the new studios, right?
Yeah.
That's a really good sign, because I want to see, I don't mean this as a joke or anything silly, I want to see Master Chief armor as a skin in Call of Duty. I think it's important. It looks great in Fortnite. It's fun. It lets people that are unfamiliar or underexposed to Xbox get a chance in the Fortnite realm to see, who's Kratos in the PlayStation world if they don't know? Who is this Kate Diaz or Marcus Phoenix? What are they? When that happens, and it happens in Call of Duty, that's a pretty big deal. And one of our stories is COD Mobile is set to launch in spring of 2024. COD Warzone Mobile, to be specific. That's going to launch in spring of 2024. Logan, that has 45 million pre-registered players right now. If even half that number jump in, and somewhere in the credits it says Xbox Game Studios, that's a huge influx of players seeing Xbox, possibly even for the first time. And if there's a Master Chief skin in there, what's that? What does that mean? If there's a pirate-themed outfit, wait, what does that mean? Like, what's that a reference to? What is this Marcus Phoenix armor or something? I think that's important. And I'm the cross-promotion guy. I talk about that a lot. But with this acquisition of Activision, they have a chance to do something special in terms of exposure. If they're bringing parity to all systems, that means you can be on your PlayStation and see a Master Chief armor or a Fallout armor or something, right? A Starfield suit, which would be great in some of those skin sets. That's a cool thing to have because I'm on my Xbox and I can see Kratos. Like, nothing wrong with that. I really like the possibilities here because it opens up. And if Matt Booty is overseeing Xbox and Bethesda working together, someone's going to be stepping in to oversee Xbox and Activision together. That's really cool stuff. And I want that to happen. I hate you for what you just put in our chat, by the way.
It's a perfect discussion point. This proves that cross promotion. So for those don't know, I shared an image from one of the tweets that came out from Overwatch 2. The image is of a Korean pop band. It is Les Seraphim, which is very popular, very new, but with a couple like folks that are established in the industry. They've been around for a while, but they are doing a special performance featuring a bunch of different songs from stuff that they've covered at BlizzCon in connection with Overwatch 2. And I reached out to one of my friends through the Keelhauled Sea of Thieves community, and I was like, "Hey, how big is this?" And they're like, "That is huge." And I was like, "Okay, so why is it huge?" And they're like, "Well, they're a very up and coming band, and to see them in connection with Overwatch 2, a lot of fans of their group were like, 'What's Overwatch 2? I guess I'm going to have to go figure it out.'" And I was like, "Wait, so it was the other way around from how I thought?" Because I was like, Overwatch 2 players being like, "Who is this band or who is this group? I don't know who this K-pop group is." And it was actually the opposite, because a lot of K-pop fans are like, "Oh, I guess I need to go check out Overwatch 2 now." So the point being, it's amazing how cross promotion actually works, because it goes beyond just your favorite thing being in another favorite thing. And even to push it one step further, Luke, you almost bought an Overwatch 2 skin this week. And why? Because of Halloween, right?
Yeah. Well, I did not actually almost buy it, but like I was tempted. So I love Halloween, and my favorite skin or Halloween outfit thing is like pumpkin heads with fire eyes and stuff. And I've got that in COD, and I've got that in Fortnite. Hollow Head is the name of it in Fortnite, and I forget. I think it's pumpkin patch or something in COD. But I just love Halloween. Yeah. And then I saw almost this exact same skin, because everybody knows the pumpkin head type character in Overwatch. And I was like, maybe. I've never played Overwatch in my life. Team Paladins. That was me. I know, it's funny.
They probably have a skin in Paladins for it too.
They probably do. But I just never. It's just funny how that stuff can draw in people. I know people that were like, well, I got to turn on Fall Guys and get the Master Chief armor.
Yeah.
Cross promotion does work, and I think that's why there's such a call for like a Killer Instinct or Crossfighter or whatever, like a big Xbox showcase of these characters, because I don't subscribe to the idea that purity is important. Like, I think we should have cross promotional armors in Halo, whatnot. If you want to keep your campaign sacred, rock on. I don't need Master Chief running around with Price in the single player campaign. I don't need Master Chief running around in Gear 6 or anything like that in the campaigns. So if you want to keep that pure, fine. But in multiplayer, the point is to have fun and be silly, and I'm okay with that. It's not the threat of the metaverse. I think it's the excitement of seeing people enjoy something. So
Yeah.
to me, that's how I look at it.
I do have a question for you and for listeners. And
Okay.
I'd like to get some, it's going to be a poll. So I'd love to see like what people think about this.
Mhm.
Who would win in a staring contest between Captain Price from Call of Duty, Master Chief, and Marcus Phoenix?
Master Chief. He's got the shield. You can't see.
Well,
you can't
I
tell.
mean, okay. So Cortana would call him out if he blinked.
Okay. I think Master Chief wins that. I think Master Chief. Of the three, I think Price is the most emotional.
He's also British.
I don't understand how that would relate.
Well,
hey, governor.
Yeah.
You're blinking at me. I don't know.
He wouldn't.
Whatever.
Yes. That oh so well known bad Cockney accent. Oi, governor. Wow. Can we timestamp that for later? 30 minutes in. Oi, governor.
Immediately, any possibility of interviewing Rare just out the window. Yeah. Mike Chapman's never coming back.
Joni's gonna be like, I'm good.
Yep. No, I think Chief still wins that one because Price and Phoenix are both extremely emotional. You know.
Yeah.
Master Chief lost everything. He was like, okay, I'm sad. You know, like Phoenix, he's out there. I think
that's why you like him, because he's so much like Batman.
Yeah, that's fair. That's actually a good. Yeah, I think you're right. All right,
I'm detouring us for no reason.
No, not for no reason. It's fun. So yeah, bottom line, this culture shift and leadership change at Xbox paves the way for a lot of things to happen in the future for cross promotion. I'm excited to see how Activision changes. I put out on the Twitter, I wasn't even joking. People took it in a weird way. I was like, who's the next leader at Activision? I think that's an interesting question because I thought it would have been Sarah Bond. So now I'm curious what happens in Clean Codic's departure.
I do think that Sarah will, much in the way that Matt Booty will be kind of like overseeing ZeniMax and Bethesda stuff. I think Sarah will be taking over the Activision Blizzard as well. Mm-hmm. That's why I think there's two presidents in this case, because I think overall Matt will still have kind of like an oversight on the studios for Activision Blizzard King. But honestly, like I don't know if Mike Ybarra is up for it. He was kind of thrown into the position for Blizzard when all of the culling of filth from Blizzard came, and a lot of people stepped down because of the failures to execute on having a safe, positive work environment for all developers and stuff. And I don't know if I want to relegate. If I was Phil Spencer, I don't know if I would want to relegate Sarah Bond to just Activision Blizzard King, because I think that she has a lot of passion for all of Xbox. And Sarah, if you're listening, I would love to have backwards compatibility teams spun up again to really integrate some old content from the Activision Blizzard libraries, because I miss that team. I think that team did some really good work, and there's still so many different games that could use a little more sprucing with that auto HDR 60 frame per second boost thing. I would love to have that stuff. So sorry, Sarah, didn't mean to throw that on your plate, but I would love to have that.
Without a doubt, I think playing Spider-Man 2 of late has made me hope for Activision Blizzard's older titles to be activated somehow, brought back. And I think as Xbox they now command far more in the gaming industry than they ever have pre 2010, right? Yeah. They own Bethesda, they own Activision, they've built a relationship with Ubisoft that is stronger than ever by way of its cloud streaming relationship. They've continued to build relationships with EA in terms of Game Pass Ultimate. That is strengthening their bond. Largely, the only thing missing is anything PlayStation first party, obviously, MLB The Show notwithstanding, and then Square Enix. of the major heavy hitters. And we see Square Enix continuing to strengthen bonds with Xbox. So you have to wonder if maybe some of these older IP that are license locked might be not bullied into, but are able to be pushed into being brought back in some capacity, a collection of some kind. So I'm just curious to know if that happens. We talked about that before,
Yeah.
but I really would like to see that happen for sure. And did you know, kind of with Activision arriving, the number of billion-dollar franchises that Xbox now owns is at roughly 17. And that's a bit subjective because, what's a billion-dollar franchise mean, right?
Hmm.
But Satya Nadella noted this when he was kind of in a recent interview. I think it was an earnings call or something like that when he talked about the Activision of Blizzard King. He said, quote, with the Activision of Blizzard King, we will now add significant depth to our content portfolio. We will have $13 billion plus franchises from Candy Crush, Diablo, and Halo to Warcraft, Elder Scrolls, and Gears of War, and end quote. That is interesting. And then I think independent sources from, I want to say Verge, Tweaktown, and a few others noted that the number is actually closer to 17. Again, there's some wiggle room in those, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Like what is a billion-dollar franchise? But certainly true. When you command Elder Scrolls, Warcraft, Diablo, Call of Duty, Halo, now Starfield, like there's certainly a lot of sway you have in the industry that you did not have prior, which makes Xbox, I think, far more formidable. Had the deal failed, we'd be having a very different conversation. But now that it's gone through, it's like, ooh, this is pretty darn impressive, all things considered.
Yeah. It's nice. I mean, I don't know how this is going to impact gamers at the end of the day. I don't know that it needs to. It's kind of a cool little cliff note to be able to speak to. But it just kind of goes to show that even with all of these billion-dollar franchises, there are still a lot of other franchises that are loved and revered across the games industry. So, there's always talk about consolidation and the worries of giving one company too much IP. But sometimes even with that, you still find a lot of companies out there with cherished IP that, for all intents and purposes, will still be around and probably won't go away ever because of how valued they are.
You are absolutely right. And I know for me, as I see Xbox strengthening, it really brings me a lot of joy because I think we have parity now in the industry that has been lacking for a while.
Yeah.
And I think a lot more things are on the table, and that makes me happy.
Yeah. I want to see Xbox continue to be good stewards of Call of Duty because I think that, I went to the Halloween party last night. I noticed there were two consoles on the living room TV. There was a Nintendo Switch and a PlayStation 5. And having the conversations that I did with folks last night, it was cool to get to talk with them about video games and stuff, but know that they were in ecosystems that are my secondary compared to my Xbox, but still have meaningful chats, meaningful in a light sense. It's a party, but having conversations with them about like Destiny 2 or Call of Duty and stuff like that, like Mario Maker and stuff. Having things like that still kind of throughout the industry, even though Xbox has gone and scooped up a lot of IP and a lot of franchises, I think it's still very important. And I'm glad to see that, for all intents and purposes, they will continue to be good stewards of that IP the way they have with like Minecraft. And hopefully folks will, kind of respect them for that and keep that in mind when it comes like Elder Scrolls 6 time. Because I think that might be a fear for a lot of folks.
I agree. And, we've been playing a lot of Call of Duty lately. Just spooky
well, you
stuff
bought the battle pass. I got to support you for that, man.
I stand by that. Spawn is awesome. Spawn is awesome. But I've enjoyed the battle, but I've enjoyed our time in it, the modes that are there. Because we played a lot of COD last year, and then we fell out of it. I don't think you were with us as much in COD last year, but this year we've had a lot of fun with the modes, the PvP modes, like the regular multiplayer, the different types of drop-in Warzone style stuff, the Halloween stuff that's kind of come in with it. Has been a lot of fun. And by the time our next episode, 202, comes out a week from today, we'll have played Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. Like, we're set to get codes for that one early. That's okay. It's okay that we can say that. And I'm excited to do that. I'm also curious, like, all right, well, how's it going to be different? Because everything from 2 transfers to 3, or 90% of it does. Everything that we do is transferring. So is it just campaign? Are we literally just going to be playing the campaign? I don't know. But what's next for Call of Duty and how does Microsoft steward that will really be interesting. So I'm excited to kind of watch that happen. And I think we'll see a lot of the answers to those questions in 2024, right? 2024, we'll start getting news of like, okay, here's the back compat stuff happening. Here's what can come to Game Pass now. And there's, I talked about Warzone Mobile coming in 2024, spring 2024. You got Hellblade in there. You got, there's another IP coming out early next year. I can't remember which one it was, but like Xbox is set to have a lot of announcements in that first part of the year that are going to set a really cool cadence. You have to think Avowed will be in there. I can't remember what the other one that I'm trying to get at in my mind is, but Xbox is set for a good 2024. And now the arrival of Activision titles is that much more exciting. And so I'm stoked for it for sure.
Was it Hellblade?
I think I said Hellblade, Avowed.
Towerborn.
Something. Maybe Towerborn was what I was thinking of for early. Maybe.
When's the Song of the South coming?
Song of the South? You mean
is that
South by Midnight or something?
It was the one where they had the kind of claymation.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah.
I think that's 2025.
Oh yeah, Songs of Midnight. That's right.
South of Midnight. I don't know what it is.
South of Midnight?
It's something midnight.
I want to go watch that trailer now.
It's a good trailer. It is a good trailer. Maybe I'm thinking of Fable. Maybe it's Fable.
Fable's a way out though.
Is it? Okay. Yeah. I'm not sure what I'm thinking of. Not a big deal. In the more immediate future, asterisk possibly, maybe, Xbox did a partner preview this past week that I watched, was disappointed by, wasn't angry about being disappointed by, because I don't think it was the format. I think it was just what was in there. Most of it was not for me. And so I think that's kind of what was happening here. This partner preview was a new format for games to be showcased. It was Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater was in there, Ark Survival Ascend, Finals Beta. We saw a launch trailer for Alan Wake 2, which was interesting and I think had more to do with making sure they continue to rebuild a relationship with Remedy. Manor Lord, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, which is an Animal Crossing style game in that Yakuza setting. Icaro Will Not Die, Still Wakes the Deep, and RoboCop Rogue City, along with Dungeons of Hinterberg and Spirit of the North. Some of these looked really cool, and the format was not necessarily bad. I just don't think there were games that talked to me, but I felt like if I had to guess, I haven't had a chance to listen to X Talk yet. I bet you Kevin Ainsworth and Jam Pack Sam were loving this. I know some people in our community were really excited. I want to say it was Ellery and Butch were stoked about certain games in there, but either way, the partner preview didn't really move the needle for me, but I liked that they were building relationships with so many different types of partners and different types of games, including Konami. What did you think?
I like the format. Okay. I think they did a good job with the new style. I think this was most definitely like a test of that to see like, how people would like it. Overall, I would say that this was pretty low stakes as far as content wise goes. There's not really anything in here that I would say is something that was going to move the needle. And I don't think that they intended it to be. I think this was them kind of seeing like, if people like the way this is being done, we'll move forward with this kind of formatting for content delivery. My biggest takeaways were Ark Survival Ascended and Metal Gear Solid Delta, and the Finals. Those were like the three that I was like most impressed by. And mostly because of Metal Gear Solid, because we actually got to see like in-engine footage, which is the first time, other than just kind of like that little cinematic preview that we got a while back. And looking at this game, I can't wait to see what happens, because it really is showing off what Unreal Engine 5 can do with environments and lighting. The lighting in this game was beautiful. I can't tell if it's ray traced or past traced graphics or just really good global illumination with reflections, but it just looks so cool. There was like a displacement section where Snake is like moving through the swamp, and as he's moving along through the swamp, like there's a mud bank next to him that's being displaced by his kind of traversal through it, kind of like what you see in like nowadays with snow and whatnot, but just with like mud. And the textures were so good. I was just like, they really are putting a lot of detail into this, even with like Snake himself and like his hair and things. So I'm really just impressed. I think this was a good way to kind of like showcase like what this game is going to look like. It's going to be amazing. And after seeing things like Alan Wake now, with the way it looks, just really impressed. Ark Survival Ascended has a bit of a bit of a mixed reviews right now because it's already out on Steam. But Nitrado, I think is the company. They're handling the servers this time, which is causing conflict with a lot of custom private server people who have like Ark Survival Evolved, because Ark Survival Ascended is effectively an Unreal Engine 5 remake of Ark Survival Evolved. Which is coming to consoles later in the year or potentially next year. I've heard mixed review or mixed messaging on this. It's supposed to be in December, but some people think it'll get pushed because of the issues that they're running into server wise for the Steam client. And honestly, like it's going to be a $45 game on Steam, probably $45 on console. I don't imagine this to be like a $70 game. But as a remake for Ark, you can still kind of see some of the like the I don't know, kind of like the jank, if you will, of like the original survival game, which is apparent in other versions of their games as well. Like I can't think of the Atlas. You know, it's still kind of weird, kind of traversal and grabbing stuff, but it looks pretty. And I was really impressed to see like a remake done so quickly with Unreal Engine 5. And then the finals, which I think you and I would probably have fun playing because this feels like a third person kind of squad based game where you have to go deliver caches, and each cache takes time to be able to turn in, and you can kind of get you can get attacked while you're actually like waiting for that turn in to finish up. But this is done by former Battlefield devs. And a lot of that levolution, a lot of that like destructible environments is present in this. And the beta is running right now. And I was just kind of impressed because especially in one of the scenes, they showed like how kind of like Rainbow Six Siege tactical you can get with something where they used like thermal optics to be able to see a team that was cashing in a cache or turning in a cache on a floor above them in this building, which is all kind of like cyber buildings. So the environments will be able to change all the time. They'll be able to like design different arenas and toss those in without any kind of weird lore conceptual issues. And they threw up like a foam wall to block off the corridor that they were in. Then they used explosions to knock out the floor or the ceiling above them, dropping the teams. And then they used flamethrowers to just torch the team that fell into their trap. And they ended up grabbing like the cache that was in that they were turning in. And then right before, or, you know, right as that was happening, you see this drum of, you know, some sort of explosives with a sticky bomb attached to it roll and fall down onto the floor that they were at, exploding them as a result. So it's like third partying is such a common thing in battle royales nowadays that this looks like it is playing heavily into that kind of Apex Legends third partied kind of mentality for battle royales. But in this case, it's going to be an arena game, much like Overwatch. So I think it was very interesting. I know Ains was excited for it as well too. There's a lot of promise there, but it's another games as a service kind of mentality where I'm like, how long is this going to last? How invested should I get?
That's my only stop point. Like how many can I play? Because I
Yeah.
Don't play Sea of Thieves right now, but I love Sea of Thieves. I mean, I have a measly 900 plus hours, but like, rookie.
Yeah.
But like, I can't play that one while I'm simultaneously playing all these great single player games, plus COD, plus Fortnite with my crews. Like, it's my buddies that play with me in these games. We only have so much time. So I
Mm.
wonder how the finals ranks in next to COD, ranks in next to Halo, which is having a nice, small but comfortable resurgence, ranks in next to so many other titles. Like, I was making a list, Logan, in my mind of games that I haven't gotten to play or haven't played enough of. Like, I played it for coverage, but now I need to go back to because I want to.
Mm.
I want to go back to the Crew Motor Fest. I have not touched Phantom Liberty. At the time of recording this, I haven't started Alan Wake 2. Um,
How
I've
dare
yet
you?
to play
How dare you?
Everspace 2, which you know I wanted to play.
Yeah.
But like, my mind was on either coverage games that we've talked about on this show, or extra time in Starfield, or extra time with my friends here and there. And like, there's so
Mm.
much time. Do people have time for another shooter with Rainbow Six Siege showing no signs of really stopping? Like, is the finals going to take the place of Rainbow Six Siege? There are incredible numbers for the finals, like 200 plus thousand concurrent viewers at the moment, and
Yeah.
players on Steam and stuff. So like, how long do these last? You know, is it going to be like Threads where big spike, big drop? You know, like, what's going
Yeah.
to happen? I just don't know. But I do like seeing them get the spotlight by Xbox, build a relationship there, along with a bunch of other these games that were at the showcase. Like, it is cool to see that relationship improving. I know maybe I'm the lame one because I was like, RoboCop Rogue City, yay. And like, I don't think anybody else was excited, but I was like, all right, because I liked Terminator Resistance. But I
Yeah.
think I'm just a different type of gamer than a lot of people that are on socials. But like, I'm stoked for that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. You're good with sevens
I am.
and
Yeah.
very honest about that. To be perfectly honest, like RoboCop is such a weird thing to me because that was part of this as well too. We got some other ones like Still Wakes the Deep, which is kind of like a horror based walking simulator. Think like Call of the Sea, but even weirder. And with RoboCop, it's one of those situations where I love RoboCop. I love the movies. I thought they were great as a kid. It was the weirdest, like PG-13 movie that was most definitely R at the time. And it was great to like see him as well as Terminator in like Mortal Kombat 11.
Mm-hmm.
But to have like a RoboCop game, like I've never thought of like RoboCop as a character that would feel good to play in a game because he's so slow and methodical. The whole idea is that, you know, he's impenetrable in to an extent, you know, unless you can like, you know, get a chainsaw and then you're probably pretty good to cut him up there. But overall, like, it's not, I don't know what story they're going to be telling because RoboCop has always been a spectacle. It's never been about the deep story. You know, it's John Wick without the dog. And it's just, I don't know where they're going with that game because it feels like what they had was the idea of what it would look like if RoboCop was in a game. And I haven't seen anything compelling outside of that. And maybe that's all it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, then, you know, I hope folks enjoy it because Aliens Fireteam is the exact same thing.
Yeah. I love that game. But
Yeah.
like, that's the game I play with the podcast on. When I play Starfield, 90% of the time, my podcast is not on. When I play Spider-Man or
I was worried where you're going with that.
Well, like when I play a lot of single player games, I'm in the story.
Yeah.
I will not be in the story for that one. I will be listening to a show, watching TV, watching YouTube while I play. That's a play game, not an experience, at least to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Starfield is an experience. Alan Wake is an experience.
Yeah.
So that is the difference. And sometimes I don't want to be invested. I just want to point and shoot. We joke about that a lot, but like, that's truly why I haven't played Phantom Liberty, because I only have so much proper attention at the end of a school day where I've answered, you know, well over 1,000 questions and decisions to make.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do that. So
yeah.
Actually, I heard it. So I'll give you an insight into Lohr real quick. I heard a interesting statistic, which is escaping me in this very moment, but the number of decisions teachers make in a day, it eclipses that of most other professions, to include trauma doctors and stuff, which surprised me. And now let's make sure I'm getting the message proper here. The number of decisions, not the importance and severity, but the number of questions answered, the number of decisions that have to be made when you have a classroom of 30 plus people for however many hours a day or whatnot. And I see a minimum 120 students a day. It's just a lot. So I don't want to make decisions when I get home, right? I think a lot of people can empathize with that. But that's why my gaming is the way it is. I don't want to go in and do anything other than point and click sometimes. And that's the I think the difference for me.
Your social experience is enriched through your job, whereas afterwards you want to eliminate that from your processing.
That's a great way to put it.
It was the opposite of when I was working in pest control. My social enrichment was through podcasts, so I was sated in that aspect, but it was making up for the pure manual labor that I was working at the time. I needed something intellectual to keep my mind activated and engaged. Otherwise, I was going to go insane. With you, you're so overloaded at work that by the time you get home, you're ready to detox and decompress from that experience, which is why action adventure is your go-to for that. I think if you didn't have the profession that you do, I think we'd be having a much different conversation, because a lot of RPGs and their storytelling would probably enrich that social desire to have a conversation with something.
That is a great way to put it. That's the most eloquent I've ever heard it said, and you are dead on the money. That's exactly right. And I bet you we have a lot of listeners who they get their gaming conversations and their intellectual take from our show or from others.
Yeah.
Whereas, it's just a different thing. I watch it in the Discord too. The jobs that people have, the family structures people have, impact how they want to communicate about games and their recreation.
Yep.
Good. Well said, Logan. Well said.
So RoboCop, bad game, fun time. Maybe.
There you go.
We'll see.
Well, we have a number of listener reviews that we didn't get to read last week that I want to talk about. But before we do, Alan Wake 2 is out. And for all intents and purposes, it seems to be following the trend of 2023 of destroying wallets and crushing it over on Metacritic. Alan Wake getting 5 out of 5 from VGC, 5 out of 5 from VG247, The Gamer 5 out of 5, Games Hub 5 out of 5, Screen Rant 5 out of 5, Games Radar 5 out of 5, Dexterto, GameSpot, 6-Axis, Game Reactor all 10 out of 10. Looking to be IGN giving it a 9, Press Start 9.5, Shack News 9, Metacritic around 90, OpenCritic just short of 90 at 89. Bottom line, Alan Wake 2 is impressive.
It looks like both, as of today, as of recording, both are now at 89 on Metacritic and OpenCritic.
Gotcha.
So we updated this last night. The reviews are still rolling in.
But pretty darn impressive. I love seeing this because I'm a diehard Alan Wake fan. This has been among my most anticipated games of the year. If I was not caught off guard by how much I'm enjoying Spider-Man, I would have dove in immediately upon getting the code. But I love this.
You did the Fortnite experience.
Yes, and that B-roll should be running right about now as we're talking. The Fortnite Flashback Island did a great job at retelling what happened in the original Alan Wake, which is a wonderful thing. You were kind enough to give me B-roll for this one, so listeners that are on YouTube can see this kind of happening right now. But it was really cool to play through the story of Alan Wake in Fortnite on an island, very low stakes, but using assets from the original Alan Wake. Just to tell the quick story. Definitely left out some details, but such a fun time. Right now, they're watching your Doom guy go through. It was my Pumpkin Man that went through. But it was cool to see that happen. And I would encourage anybody that can wait to play Alan Wake, to play All of Control, just to get the full experience. But it sounds like you don't need to do that if you don't want to. But to me, the universe and the writing is so peculiarly awesome that it's worth doing. And Alan Wake Remastered is a flawed but great way to experience Alan Wake. Do it. Check it out. Some fun stuff. This is one of those games I don't think you need to play in fear of spoilers. Like, you don't need to do it right now because it will always be about the experience, not the end. Whereas some things, you know, a spoiler could do everything. Alan Wake is unique and it's a wonderful part of Xbox history. So I hope that people take the time to fully go in and use the Fortnite uh, island, play through Alan Wake 1 in 25 minutes. I did it. It was a blast.
Alan Wake Remastered, at least as of the time of recording this, for the next 4 days is on sale from $30 to under $10.
Ooh, that's great. So worth it. So worth it. And in Control Ultimate Edition or Control in general, the Alan Wake expansion, wonderful. The Alan Wake expansion is wonderful. We got a code for Alan Wake 2. We only got one. I took advantage of that one, listeners.
Yeah, I didn't want. Sorry, you're not getting B-roll of this at the moment because I have trouble playing the spoopy games, and I did not want a code if I wasn't going to be playing it.
But I did the $20 upgrade. So like if you get the regular edition, guys, and then you are like, yo, this is my jam and I want to get the expansions, you can get all the expansions and upgrade deluxe edition for $20 more. So if you're on the fence about which edition to buy and you're not sure if it's for you and you get the regular one, you can upgrade later, which is cool. I know I'm all in on this. I'm excited for it. This is definitely going to be one that I take my time with, because gone are the days where I play it and rush through a game. I ruined God of War 2 for myself, and I'm not going to do that again. And so I'm stoked for Alan Wake. This is so cool. And I think a lot of our Discord members are loving it. I want to say it was, I'm going to pull it up right now, like while we're talking, but I saw, let's see, Clint was talking about how much he loved Alan Wake. Kevin Ainsworth was loving it.
They've been loving the music too. Like the music has been the big point of sell for them. I just bought Alan Wake Remastered, by the way, for $10.
Did you?
So,
you did it?
Yeah, I'll try and play through that. It says it's an action adventure shooter, which
is different than a horror game that 2 is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Did you play Control?
I played a little bit of it, really enjoyed it, but then got distracted with Destiny and Sea of Thieves.
Gotcha. Well, if you have a chance to play Control Ultimate Edition, it is
I do have.
They are tied together, but they are not like siblings. Like they are not, you don't need one to enjoy the other, vice versa. They're more like cousins.
Yeah.
And you get references to Alan Wake by playing through Control. And then one of the expansions is called AWE, which is a reference to altered world events in the game, but it's also Alan Wake expansion, where you come across the idea that, wait a minute, Alan Wake Alan Wake exists in the world of Control, or rather, quote, question, maybe possible, Control exists in the world of Alan Wake, which is also a possibility because what Alan writes comes true, asterisk, comma, sometimes maybe, is a lot of really strange Twilight Zone level speculation. So I did not spoil anything for anybody. That's all on the boxes, and just to be very clear. But it's intentionally nebulous for you as the consumer, reader, experience, audience member to decide and learn about. So just to be clear, I don't want anyone to think I ruined something for them. It was always meant to be stated that way and discovered according to your own affair. So
I'm very curious, once you get time to actually play through this, how Alan Wake 2 takes place, because after playing through the Fortnite story and learning that everything kind of happens as a result of the situation that occurs there, knowing that the second one has 2 characters that are kind of working through the same story-ish kind of thing, from what I understood of the trailers, I'm wondering like how this game even kind of kicks off, because it does feel like Alan Wake 1 is kind of a one-off, with an opportunity for them to kind of open it up. So I'm very curious, because there's characters that I've seen in the Fortnite thing that I was like, oh, that's cool, but I haven't seen them in Alan Wake 2 trailers. So what happened there? And I'm wondering if maybe that's part of the story.
I'm curious as well. There's a lot of questions I have about the Room of Light and some of the characters from the first Alan Wake. His wife plays an integral part as to his experience, Alan's experience, as a character. how does she, if at all, factor into the second one,
Mhm.
the typewriter, and it'll just be really cool to see how they've evolved the mechanics. Because you'll find in Alan Wake Remastered, the gameplay is very dated to point the flashlight at a word and it's created. That's cool, but it was cool when it came out, and
Yeah.
I'm curious how they evolve that to the next one, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see here, Logan. I am excited for Alan Wake 2, without a doubt, but I didn't get a chance to read last week reviews by both Clint Coombs and Ellery
Mm.
on the various games they covered for XEP, which I'm grateful for. We had a code for Long Gone Days, which is a game that was never meant for Luke Lohr, but it's right up Ellery's interest level. And I hope they come on and talk about it in our wrap up this month as well. But I'm going to read Ellery's review, and then I would encourage you to pull up some gameplay footage of it as well. This is Long Gone Days, and Ellery, one of our community members, did this review for us. Long Gone Days shouldn't be rushed through, even though the first half can feel tedious at times. A philosophical thinker, it uses the military and politics to question the moral and ethical decisions and ramifications that are made and encountered. The game sets a tone quickly when it hits you with when you have been spoon-fed with limited choices your whole life, you don't really question the stuff given to you. You just assume that it's normal. But also falls off quickly as you slog through the first few hours. Looking back during this time, I would have explored side quests as this could have potentially filled that void for me, but those first few hours weren't a complete drag. This is a great character. There is great character design despite a lack of diversity and representation. The art in both pixelated characters and anime style narrative parts are wonderful and one of my favorite things about this game. Also, I appreciate the numerous manual save points throughout, and anytime I can pet an animal in a game, it's a huge win. From the 8 hours that I played, I found myself ignoring the side quests and the morale system as their impacts were not apparent and didn't seem to hinder any of my objectives. The turn-based combat was average, albeit a bit tiring as the game went on. Although I did enjoy the first-person perspective, character control wasn't always smooth with the left stick, but switching to the D-pad quickly remedied this. Unfortunately, I was unable to roll credits due to a bug that was encountered during the Aldebarian Underground when facing a gun drone, and this game continuously kicked me out to the home screen, and despite an attempt at uninstalling and reinstalling it to my system. This was a tragic end to a game for me, as the second part was where the game started to finally shine with more robust gameplay and a more compelling story arc. And that is Ellery's review. And as I look at gameplay, I can see exactly what she's talking about with kind of the point and click element, the morale system, the military approach. There's a lot of reading and talking and dialogue, but that anime art style does seem to be compelling. I appreciate Ellery for writing that review. Logan, what did you think? Did you see footage of this while I was
I thought,
talking?
yeah, I thought that was a great review. I thought it was really interesting to kind of address the lack of diversity based on the location and see if there was an opportunity there for the devs to either decide like they wanted that inclusion or they wanted to keep things very kind of close to the cultural representation of the environment that they're working in. Even though it's it's all made up, they could decide what they wanted. I did see what she was talking about as far as like the different animals that you can pet. I saw a couple ravens in there, but a kitty as well. And the pixel art reminds me a lot of like Harvest Moon games. A lot of I can't think of the farming simulator that's super popular that recently got multiplayer that everyone plays. I can't think of the name of
Animal
it.
Crossing? Farming
No,
Simulator?
no, it was I hate that I'm forgetting this.
I'm sorry, I'm not much help here.
No,
But there's a farming simulator that's popular.
it's really really popular, but this looks like a kind of an extension of like that pixel art style.
Mm-hmm.
Not too unlike Sea of Stars. I think Sea of Stars is probably much higher quality as far as like
Mm-hmm.
the little flourishes that they do for this, but this
Mhm.
does look pretty cute. Gosh, it's bugging me that I can't think of that name, but I'll have to let that go. But overall, I would say great review. Glad that they were able to take this on because I definitely see where the the gameplay would not have interested me on the box. But after listening to what they wrote up about this, it was cool to hear that it's still pretty good. Real shame about that, bummer. It's weird how often you find games that have game-breaking bugs at the end of the game where it typically is the least played. And most folks will never see that because most folks rarely ever actually finish games nowadays.
I also get frustrated when people make a big deal of small bugs, right? And playing Starfield and Spider-Man, it's kind of my two big story games of late. I've seen a lot of bugs in both. None ruined my experience. I was like, all right, come on. But it sounds like in Ellery's case, you can't progress. That's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
It's very different than someone getting stuck in a background, reload a checkpoint, move on with your life, right? Yep. It's very different experience. And so that's definitely awesome. Clint Coombs was good enough to write in a review for us for Warhammer Darktide, which a lot of people have been playing as it was essentially relaunched into Game Pass. A lot of people I know have been checking this out. We saw people in our Discord playing it. Would you mind reading Clint's take on Warhammer 40,000 Darktide?
Yeah, this is one that I'm ashamed that I have not dipped into because I actually really loved the trailer when it first came out. Clint, really appreciate you writing up the review on this because it really helps kind of gauge whether or not I'll be able to jump in. And honestly, I think it'll take some of the XEP crew to be able to dive into this for me to have a reason to install it, considering how much space I have on my Xboxes right now, especially with Alan Wake downloading. But he wrote in his review, says Warhammer 40,000 Darktide, developed by Fat Shark Games. Darktide is the first person cooperative shooter that takes place in the grim Warhammer 40K universe, which is a great universe. Originally released on PC back in November 30th, the game is now available on Xbox and Game Pass, along with the release of patch 13, which greatly changes up the 4-class skill trees. You can reach level 30 in Darktide equipment, with 4 different classes. As you reach level 30, you will discover new equipment and tools to add to the skill tree of your chosen class. Reminds me a lot of the game that came out recently. Oh, never mind. Anyway,
this is the second time you've done that. I'm like,
I know
yeah,
my brain is just like failing. Outriders.
Yes, love
the 4 classes you have to choose from are the Psyker, Kinetic, Psykinetic, the Zealot, Preacher, Zealot. I always call it Zeal. Zealot, Preacher, Veteran, Sharpshooter, or Sharpshooter. Wow, I'm just failing today.
Sharpshooter.
And the Organ Skullbreaker.
Ogren Skullbreaker.
Ogren. Thank you. Yeah. I don't know why I'm making me read this. The Sharpshooter is your standard run and gun style that is also armed with different types of grenades depending on what skill path you choose, and is also armed with a chainsword for close melee combat, which Space Marine, I love the chainswords.
I was gonna say that chainsword.
So good.
Pretty well known. Yeah, that's dope.
Their skill tree can also help with extra ammo drops and higher damage outputs to critical hits on enemies. That is my COD playstyle right there, by the way. Zealot Preacher is more of a close quarters character armed with SMGs/flamethrowers and multiple different single hand weapons. They play more of a support role with their skills, allowing to stun multiple enemies, as well as buffing your party against the enemy hordes. You'll be bursting heads and confusing enemies with the Psyker class from a safe distance. Upgrading certain skills for this class will allow you to lightning strike multiple enemies at a time or one-shot elite enemies while also giving your group a buff to damage against elite baddies. This reminds me a lot of the was it the Storm Chaser class in of Anthem? Was that the mage class?
I don't remember that kind of stuff. Like I know what you're talking about. I don't remember the name. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, there was an elemental javelin in Anthem that this sounds a lot like, which I love that javelin. Clint goes on to say nothing will harm your comrades if you spec into the tank option of the Ogren, absorbing blows with your massive shield and making enemies attack you and not your friends with a single swing of your giant mace. Or spec into giant death machines able to equip the largest guns and melee weapons as your special ability charges you forward, knocking everything you hit to the floor and dazed. This was my favorite class overall, and I had a lot of fun defending my friends as they mow down the hordes of enemies attacking me. Once you've chosen your class, you'll be able to play through several campaign missions, all with main missions and submissions to complete for rewards. These are all replayable with the 5 different difficulties as well as random things added to the map, such as the level being set very low light, higher enemy density, and harder hitting elites, just to name a few. Upon completing the mission, you will be rewarded with experience points, money to buy armor and weapon upgrades, tokens that go towards crafting of new loot, and the possibility of an upgrade for your armor or weapons. Graphics are very well done. Your character's multitude of armor and weapons all look great. Even with a multitude of enemies on screen at once, some great attention to detail was made to their skins and clothing. Most levels take place inside, and there are some great instances of shadow and light detail through corridors and cathedral style rooms. The Series X has both quality mode that runs at 30 FPS and performance mode at 60 FPS. Quality mode does seem to stick at 30, where performance drops down to 50 here and there. Series S has performance mode only at 30 FPS. Turning off blur effect seemed to help greatly with the stabilization of these frames. I have roughly 40 hours total with the PC and console versions combined. Playing solo with random is fun, but if they aren't using voice or don't care about objectives, it can be a downer at times. However, playing with friends led to many late nights of laughter and yells as we tore through the hordes of enemies in the name of the Emperor. If you're a fan of co-op shooters or games like Left 4 Dead, I highly recommend this title. I give it a solid 3 out of 5, double downs, or even an 8.
There you go. That makes me want to play it.
It looks really fun.
Interesting. Yeah.
It looks like Aliens Fireteam is going to be like of the same avenue. Like there's class, we deal with hordes. It's like Gears horde mode, but in Warhammer. And Warhammer has fantastic lore and character design and stuff like that. So it's going to be fun. I think it's just a matter of, do we install it over something else?
Right. I fully agree. Big thank you to Clint, to Ellery for doing that for us. Guys, we get sometimes codes that we just can't handle. If that's something that you're interested in, you're a part of the XCP community, let us know. Happy to see what we can do as far as doing kind of listener reviews if you're in our community, because we enjoy doing that. That was fun. And it lets us cover games that Logan and I wouldn't either be able to get to or don't necessarily have an interest in covering ourselves, but our audience might. So we really appreciate that. Thank you guys so much. So much. So, oh man, Logan, we've got not a ton of listener questions, but a few. And I want to make sure I give them due diligence. Edward Varnell wrote in over on Twitter and says, do you think that Microsoft's next console should release in 2028? Do you think the pandemic would have moved it to 2030 so they could catch up with games and business that was missed during those 2 years of release? I don't have a good 2028 versus 2030 kind of thing. I think it will largely depend on how Xbox manages the release of Activision content next to Bethesda content and how strong they are doing. Xbox has been in third place for an entire generation and a half, and that has dictated some of their choices.
Yeah.
PlayStation has been in second place, but first in the competitive HD zones. For quite some time, they've been raising prices of their consoles and games and subscription services to seemingly no detriment right now. So having a good first-party catalog is a big deal and lets you make decisions that may not necessarily be consumer-friendly, and you get away with it. So how quickly we need the next Xbox will depend on how strong their portfolio is for a while. They posted, Brad Sams reported on some numbers recently, Edward, that were pretty darn impressive. All money in the bank revenue for Xbox and Microsoft lately. That would surprise you, I think, at least from the outside looking in, right? But Starfield had a huge bump in Game Pass numbers. Satya Nadella reported it was the largest single day jump in Game Pass subscribers as a result of Starfield. You have to think, if they get a good cadence between Xbox Game Studios, ZeniMax Studios, and Bethesda titles, Activision titles across the board, and they're able to manage that well, console sales will do quite well. And then the question is, do you need a new console sooner or later to boost interest? Nintendo has taught us you don't need a new console to keep interest in sales. PlayStation has taught us that if your IP is strong and there's interest in your IP, people are going to buy your stuff for third party. So it'll largely depend on that. I don't need a console to be new to enjoy it. I do need content that I want to play. So we'll see, Edward. But I don't think the pandemic is truly going to impact anything as far as 28, 2030. Resources might. They just signed a pretty big deal with ARM, which I don't know computer parts, and I don't want to pretend like I do. I'm just quoting what I heard from Brad Sams. That may impact how the infrastructure of the new system is, the inner workings. That would be more likely to impact this than a pandemic per se.
Yeah. ARM technology is interesting. It's low power, high efficiency, but not it's like low power consumption, I should say. It's just not as powerful as like a standard CPU, but it operates at a much lower power consumption than standard CPUs. ARM is a fantastic technology. In fact, I would say most iPhones and stuff, most of the chips that Apple produces now are all ARM based. Google is like ARM based. A lot of handhelds are ARM based as far as their infrastructure, as far as their actual technology, like the chips, the Snapdragon chips that are in them are all ARM based. Stuff is kind of moving that direction because the technology is progressing faster than the slope for standard PC chips, CPUs. But like if you imagine having a handheld, an ARM chip in there is going to consume the battery life a lot less. And you're going to than like a standard like CPU GPU combination. So for consoles, that's a good thing because you can get better performance out of it for less power consumption, which reduces the heat index, which means that you can make the components more tightly encased with less like cooling overhead compared to like a big computer tower that needs like an AIU in it to be able to keep the CPU below 100 Celsius. Things like that are really kind of interesting. I'm with you when it comes to not necessarily saying that 2 years would make much of a difference. I do think that Xbox needs to have a new console in 2028. 8 years is a pretty good lifespan for a hardware, but we're looking at that right now with the Switch, and everyone is like chomping at the bit. Or champing at the bit. Sorry, I didn't want to mess that up. They're champing at the bit to get the Switch 2. And that's it's telling. The like as far as hardware goes right now for Xbox, I'm done buying hardware for Xbox. I have like the cards that I want. I have the expansion drives that I want. I've got the peripherals that I want. I'm not probably going to spend a whole lot on hardware for Xbox in the next 5 years. So when the next Xbox comes out, I need it to be a marketed improvement on the hardware as far as like what we're going to be getting, because even with this generation, we're still not getting the 4K 60 that we were promised at the beginning of the system at the launch. And looking at PC, the parity difference is growing. PC cards are just growing better. The ray tracing looks so much better. You can get 4K 60 on PC right now. It's not a problem if you have a high end card, but you're also spending like $5,000 on that PC. So I need that console to come out sooner rather than later to deal with the disparity between graphics right now, because the developers are already whining about the Series S.
Yep, that's a good take on it, and I appreciate the logic. I'm in a similar boat of I don't think I need new Xbox hardware for a while. I don't need controllers unless it's like a collector's piece. Like I love my Starfield controller. I haven't used it yet. It's beautiful.
It's so good. I'm worried I'm using it too much.
Yeah, I totally understand that. But I've been using my Elite Core. Just enjoying that. I use my Master Chief one. They are good deals on it. But like I use my like this one's beautiful. I use this a lot. Or I used it a lot. And I haven't used it in a while because I'm just on my white one. So unless it's a collector's piece, I don't really need it. The only thing I need hardware wise is the expansion card, like the memory card.
Oh yeah,
I really need that for my Series S downstairs. That is actually inhibiting my gameplay.
yeah.
But
I have two.
we've talked about this before, but like the money spent on games or gaming are finite. And we're fortunate we get a lot of codes, so I don't want to pretend like I'm not fortunate there. But like
Yeah,
even still, like I still have to buy a certain number of things or pay for Zencaster or whatever. And I'm not gonna spend money on that memory card in lieu of a new game.
yeah,
But I am gonna have to deal with it. I'm so frustrated with my Series S because it's small. Like COD is 100 and blah, 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 or whatever it is. Like
yeah.
it takes up a good chunk of it, and so I need a memory card pretty badly for my Series S.
If only, if only there was a cloud solution that would save us from having to have these large game installs on our hard drives.
Fidelity and delay. That's the only kicker. But you're right. You're right. All right, let's go to Famous Seamus's question before we get out of here. Love Famous Seamus. He's the most famous Seamus that I know.
I don't know any more famous Seamus either.
I know Seamus Blackley, but Famous Seamus is more famous. He says, Halloween is in a few days. I'm at a convention this weekend, so I'll ask two questions. What is the best Halloween costume you've ever seen, and what is your dream costume to wear? The best Halloween costume I've ever seen was Pennywise. My neighbor has a brilliant Pennywise costume that they wear. I think Pennywise is one of the coolest characters ever. I really wish they'd do a series on Derry and like so we'd get more of Pennywise himself. But that was a great Halloween costume. And I'm a good sucker for whenever kids show up in the hero they want to be. Like I had a lot of Black Panthers last year and a lot of
cool.
Miles Morales and Peter Parkers showing up. That was fun because like I'd get the Wakanda Forever or I get the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like they would do that. A few years ago, I'd get a lot of Jedi when I think it was because Star Wars was still doing its movie releases, and like they'd hold the lightsaber. My dream costume to wear really depends on what year it is. Like I loved Master Chief. I was doing a Master Chief for a bit. Last year I did a Jedi. I don't know what I'll do this year, but like it just depends on what I'm into at the moment. I had planned to do some sort of Superman-esque thing, but I haven't been able to be lifting like I wanted to. Just have been so busy. So like I don't quite fill out the spandex shirt that I wanted to do in a way that I'd be proud of. Like I like the wrong parts are puffy. So I'm like, all right. So it just depends, but yeah, that's my answer.
That's so cool. Yeah, I've seen some really fantastic. Unfortunately, I follow a few different cosplayers like on Twitter and on YouTube and stuff. So the quality for some of the cosplays that I've seen have been amazing. I saw Willow Creates over on Twitter and YouTube develop an animatronic mask that was of Mephisto from Diablo 4 in the wolf form with like the half dead skull with the blinking eyes and stuff. And it looks so amazing. So I have a really skewed perspective on costumes because I'm so present within like watching really good cosplay makers.
Mm-hmm.
But the one time I went out to, I go out to the Sacramento Anime Convention every couple of years or every couple of times a year, and there's a group of folks there that make Gundam suits as like a Halo Master Chief kind of looking like suit, but it's Gundam. And every year I see them with just a little bit cooler of a Gundam suit, and I'm like, man, that'd be fun. I'd love to make like one of those kind of suits because you can hide the little dad belly, when you're wearing like a big cool suit like that, and so yeah, that would be my pick. And those are like the ones that I'm most impressed by, the folks that are able to do the foam and the cardboard, like just suits of armor that look metal but are 100% just foam. I love that. I think that's the coolest thing in the world. So I would like to try and figure that out. Like BlizzCon, they had the Reinhardts from Overwatch. Those were so cool. They were huge. They were massive. I would love to do something like that one day.
Dope. Very cool. Very cool. Well, Logan, I think that's going to do it for this week. I want to thank everybody for listening to XEP. It was really cool to get so many messages for XEP 200 last week. Grateful to all of you for listening. Of course, you can find the show on all your podcast services. You can find me on all the socials at InsipidGhost. We really appreciate the engagement, the Patreon support, the likes and subscribes. If you haven't clicked like, please consider it. And if you're on audio, writing a review makes a big deal, a big difference, I should say. And so I'm just appreciative of you. Logan, where can people find you and what content you're doing?
Keelhauled is always just out there, doing Sea of Thieves content. It's been really good this week. So happy to share some time with my community members talking about Tall Tales recently. Other than that, just CAPT_LOGUN either in Discord or on Twitter or Threads.
There we go. That's it for us. Have a fantastic rest of your week, everyone. Take care.